altered words to another favourite. But I would ride 500 miles, and I would ride 500 more, just to be the lass who rides 1,000 miles to fall down dead at her own door. And I'd like to see, she thought between gasps, the bloody proclaimers do a better job of singing while pedalling up this bloody hill. She ground to a halt, straddled the bike, gulped air, leaned her forehead against the cool metal of the handlebars. Maybe she'd proved enough for one morning. The downward glide toward home was calling. She straightened and looked behind her. The view, she felt it in her heart. And no, this is not a heart attack. It's love. Undulant hills rose to the left and right, with the slate rooftops and chimneys of Inversgail nestled in their laps. The tide was out in the harbour, but that didn't matter. Even the colours of the harbour muck were picturesque at this distance. Could she see the islands? Just barely. And the sea, cerulean shades all the way out to where they blended into the sky. A view to die for. If she could make herself go a little farther, she could turn again and stretch her arms to hold it all in her embrace. If I can gasp my way to that bridge. By the time Janet reached the ancient stone bridge, she didn't think she'd stay standing if she got off the bike. Her legs felt like a quivering blancmange, but the bridge looked just wide enough for a car to pass her safely. She stopped at the crown of the span, close to the lichen-covered wall, and leaned herself and her bike against it. The top of the wall was a perfect height for her to rest her elbow on, and she was glad for the strength of the rough, cool granite. She pondered bridge and strength as her breath caught up with her. Age had nothing and everything to do with the strength of this bridge. Built by whose hands, she wondered. And how long ago? Made of stones, the bones of the earth. Not like the abandoned bridge she'd walked across with a group of birders back in Illinois. She hadn't enjoyed that experience, didn't like heights with poorly guarded edges. Remembering the creaking and groaning of the arthritic planks as they'd skirted holes in the deck of that bridge, Janet shuddered. Not the smartest thing she'd ever done. That poor stretch of wood and iron was barely more than a century old and already left to rust and rot. She patted the side of this stout fellow, like patting the flank of a trusty steed. Your strength has been, it is, and it will continue to be. It was also the only thing keeping her from toppling into the burn below. She chanced to look over the side to see where she would go if she did topple. Head first, onto rocks the size of Shetland ponies and Highland cattle, by the looks of it. Janet shuddered again, and made herself focus instead on the gurgling water, letting her eyes follow the burn, wending its whiskey-coloured way beyond the rocks and between banks of frost-killed thistles. There were more rocks farther along, but rocks on their own weren't threatening, except... what was that? On the near side of the burn, near the largest non-threatening rock. What was that in the thistles? A bike wheel. And beyond the wheel, half in the burn, plastic, a bag, cloth, a sleeve, an arm, not moving. Chapter 2. A burn in a bed of dry thistles was no place for a nap. Janet cupped her hands to her mouth and called, "Hello? Along the burn?" There was no answer, no movement. She thought for a moment and then climbed off her bike, her legs not at all like jelly. Maybe she'd exaggerated their distress. She walked the bike back off the bridge, losing sight of the sleeve and the other bike's wheel, and looked along the embankment for a way down to the creek. It's steep but not a bluff, Janet thought. There is no edge, and the world is not waiting to tip me off of one. There was no clear path either, but the verge was wide enough for a car to have pulled off the roadway, at least to get 2 wheels off the pavement anyway. She stepped over tyre ruts to study the slope. It didn't immediately...